Well, part of the BlizzCon show this weekend was World of Warcraft, right? I mean, that's one of their biggest properties that they have.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But what did they talk about with World of Warcraft?
So World of Warcraft was basically discussing a balance patch that's kind of going to come up. There's things called covenants in the game as it stands right now, where you side with a faction in the Shadowlands, and you go through their quest line. And if you go through them all on different characters, or you switch, which you could do at any time, that's kind of a lie. You can't do it at any time. Like, could take you 2 weeks. At the moment, they're switching that around because it's unfair. But you basically can do their storyline and see that. So it gives you an idea of like how things are going in the story from 4 different ends, which is pretty cool. And like I said, you can switch that up. There's perks to that too. The covenants give you powers and other things like that. And some people have found out that certain covenants are just OP compared to others. And I tend to go with what I want to do, and mine are weaker. So I'm struggling a little bit with my damage when it could be a bit higher. And that's due to the covenants. So they're going to balance certain things like that. I think there's some other items and such. But
what's the covenants do?
It's storyline. They basically...
Like an enhancement or something for you?
Yeah, it's like a faction.
Oh, okay.
So the Covenant is my faction. So I'm going to go through the Covenant storyline for Maldraxxus, or I'm going to do it for Revendreth or whatever. And it's its own little storyline. All kind of landing in the same kind of area at the end where you're going to. So that's just the story that you go through. And you get powers from each one. And they do different things. So you can choose which Covenant you want to start with and stay with if you want, or switch it out. That's what it really comes down to. Just story.
Okay.
Story with a little bit of power, and that's where the balancing is. Some of the powers from certain covenants are just too good. That's what it comes down to. So they mentioned that, and then the next big thing that they mentioned was the new content patch, which is not going to be real soon. I'm going to say the balance is probably going to be in the next maybe 2 months, somewhere in that time frame. And then a little after that will be the new content patch, where they've showed the jailer throwing out chains to an area that's in the mall, but somewhere in the air.
What is that? They also did, they mentioned something about a new raid and stuff too, right?
Yes. So this area that we're going to is going to be linked. It's, you can kind of call them like the ethereals, but in this, they're called the brokers. Mm-hmm. That's their area up there. It's going to have all the weird creatures and things like that. This is where flying and mountain riding is going to come available, as long as you go through the storyline. Other than that, there is going to be a new raid, and they did announce finally that Sylvanas is going to be in this raid, and she's the one that's
right
joined up with the jailer and made it like go this route. So we're going to actually get to see that fight and hopefully beat on her a bit. So that's what we're going to be doing with that. And I'm trying to think what else that they mentioned. There's a couple of different changes, items, I'm not sure, that I have on the top of my head, but those are the big things. Flying. 8-man dungeon. Not an 8-man dungeon. An 8-boss dungeon, I think. So you're going to have a raid.
Bosses.
You're going to have a raid that's going to be 10 bosses, just like Castle Nathria. And then you're going to have, I believe, it was kind of like what they did with Karazhan. It was a raid in the Burning Crusade. Oh, that's another thing we'll talk about in a moment. So it was a raid in the Burning Crusade, and then it turned into a 5-man dungeon, but what they call an epic dungeon. Has more bosses. So this will be an 8-man, 5-player dungeon, 8-boss, 5-player dungeon in the Shadowlands. The other big thing with World of Warcraft that was mentioned was Burning Crusade.
So it's coming back as a classic, right?
Classic, that's right. So they announced that's going to be coming back. So the people that have gone through, they're fighting Naxxramas now, I think, in Classic, which is the end raid. And they're opening up and getting ready to have the Burning Crusade. Unfortunately, I haven't tried that. So,
was the Burning Crusade the first expansion?
Yes.
It was, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the way it looks, they keep hinting at it. The way it looks as of now, it's going to probably go to the Burning Crusade, and I think they're going to go into the Wrath of the Lich King eventually.
Oh, that's cool.
But that really makes me curious because we haven't seen the news on that, but we haven't seen too much of Arthas in this expansion either, and we're in his area. He should be somewhere in the mall or somewhere, and that brings up a funny thing, because depending on how long the story goes, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but, maybe there'll be ties like we'll also get to play Classic with him.
I always thought that
maybe he's gonna come.
I always thought that was a cool storyline with Arthas. How he was like part of the Alliance, and then is that how it was? He was part of the Alliance at some time.
Well,
yeah, he killed the king, right?
With Uther and all that, he was a good guy, and he had to make a rough decision and in a tough time, and unfortunately, that decision went the wrong way. But I mean,
that was one of the best cinematics, though. When he's walking with the petals falling.
Oh, and he's
walking in to kill it.
Kill his father, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So
they do a good job, man. Cinemas, they always make good.
Yeah, their cinematography is crazy.
Really good.
So I know the Lich King is one of the expansion packs for the game. So are you saying that, like, when you say bring them back, does that mean like they're remastering the?
No. What they've done so far is right now I'm playing World of Warcraft, but there's also World of Warcraft Classic going on. So you could play the game kind of like a remaster, but not. As long as you're paying for the regular servers, you can play the old game as it was.
What do you mean as it was?
Back when it first came out. The story, the world, all of it the same. The leveling process, how grinding it was, everything.
So without all the updates and like content expansions and stuff?
Basically? Yeah. So, it's the original, as we call it, vanilla.
Okay.
So that's what's happening, and then they're eventually going to be going into the Burning Crusade, which was the first expansion. And that's what they just announced, because they're at the end of what you would have done during the regular one.
Right.
Vanilla.
Okay.
So, it would be called, and now we're going to BC.
So basically, like, the Classic is like, I know that after a while they made it quick leveling. So you could get levels quicker, but the Classic is like you gain the same experience as the old way, where it's harder to get to the next level.
I'm trying to remember when they brought in that speed leveling, but if you leveled up through Classic, you also, I'm pretty sure, had a rough time. Burning Crusade was a long leveling process. Those 10 levels took a little bit. I mean, there was ways to blaze it, but it was still a long process. Even if you start a new character, it took a while. Right. So I don't know if they had like some ways to push through when that actually kicked in.
Right.
But yeah, that was the change. I know definitely like Lich King and so on and so forth. After that, they started making it much easier. The world changed and shit.
You mentioned that they do the content patch.
Mm-hmm.
Do they do that a lot? Like, do they do that often? And like, do they add a lot of stuff to it with the content patches?
There'll always be, I don't know, it depends on the expansion, but you're always going to come across during the course of an expansion, there's going to be probably between 2 to 4, sometimes maybe more, but I want to say 2 to 4, because basically what they're doing is they put out a content now, right? So now we're going to get Sylvanas. So they could, in theory, either bring out another side raid after that, and then have a fourth, which would be the Jailer. We don't know what's coming. We just don't know. They could even do a thing where not only did it give you the regular raid, but after that's done, they make another side raid that's like 2 or 3 really hard bosses, but it's like a side story kind of leading on what's going on. And that could be the 4th content patch.
Right.
We don't really know.
It keeps going, man.
Oh, yeah. So
never-ending game, dude.
That's why, like, each expansion, it's got to last a few years, right? But they got to keep people paying every month, so they got to keep heading.
Give them a reason to play.
And if you're a person that plays all the time, it's rough. Like, even me, I'm not playing all day long. I go to work. But at this point, I'm like, all right, I'm doing the same dungeon. Where's this content patch? It's going to be the content patch itself is probably going to be like 2-3 months away. Maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah. They didn't announce.
They did not give a time frame. Right? They didn't give a time frame. But I know that 9.05 or whatever is coming out first, and that's not going to be for maybe mid-March. Maybe. I don't know.
Now you mentioned something about flying. Like, you mean like mounts that fly, or
yes? So there's
going to be like Superman, just like
no. You're definitely getting on mounts.
That would look weird. And Orc with his armor just going.
Hold on, let me put my sword down, my gun away, and
like a rocket.
Swing his axe around like.
Actually,
Thor
doesn't the goblins have which is the tech guys?
Yeah, the goblins.
The goblins,
or gnomes.
They could have jetpacks. They do, right?
That's true.
Why don't they have a jetpack mount?
It'd be really funny though. I just see my Tauren just like
look like Iron Man.
Get the James Bond jetpack, man.
Yeah, man. But yeah, the way they used to work it, well, I wouldn't say used to, but in the last couple expansions, I believe they had it where you had to do an achievement called pathfinding. It was really kind of grueling for people that don't want to do it. But basically, it states that in every zone they have like hidden chests. In every zone they have special mobs that have a silver dragon instead of a gold elite dragon. There'll be a silver dragon elite. Those are just special mobs on the side. They're not for any quests usually, things like that. So To get flying in the other ones, you had to earn Pathfinder 1 and then Pathfinder 2. And that was like, do a certain amount. And then Pathfinder 2 was like, find every single chest in every single zone of the expansion and kill every creature or something like that.
Jesus.
Of those dragons. And then you're allowed to fly.
Oh, wait.
Jesus.
I remember an expansion with dragons. Which one was that?
Everyone's got a dragon.
No, I'm talking about there was specific dragons in specific areas that you have to kill.
Oh, you're thinking about vanilla.
Yes. But what expansion?
No, there wasn't actually. That was vanilla. The very beginning.
Wait, that was the actual regular WoW? Like before the expansion?
There was.
I don't remember, man.
There's a couple of times, but in very, very vanilla times, there was, I think, the Blasted Lands, where the portal was to go to the Burning Crusade before you were able to go in, had a dragon.
There was like 4 or 5 of them.
There was one in Twilight something, I want to say. There was a dragon. That's the one where I kneeled down. They said to whatever my character was at the time, Bull Smite. Mm-hmm. They said, don't come too close because they were in the middle of the raid. They didn't want me to reset it. So I kneeled down and I watched them, all these guys fight, and I was in awe because I was like, what's going on here? And I'm watching like 40 guys take on this dragon. I was like, oh, this is pretty hot. Right. I just stayed back and watched. But yeah, that was in vanilla.
Oh, okay.
Very big.
Is Bull Smite the one you're using now when you're playing?
No, unfortunately, I have not leveled up Bull Smite. There was talks about trying to do a fox raid. There's a character class that's like a fox, so I made a fox smite for the hell of it. But no, I'm using cheesy beef instead.
Wait, they actually have a fox class now?
Yeah, for the
really. I never even remember seeing foxes when I used to play.
Well, because you haven't played in like 18 years.
Well, I don't even remember the panda. That was way after my time.
Yeah, and this is after that.
I was just orcs and humans. That was it, bro.
Yo.
I'm old school, dude.
The neutral classes. So, you got high mountain taurens. You got
that's cool though.
You got there's a special type of trolls. You got the fox guys. There's a couple of different things on it.